The Theatre Royal Drury Lane, one of London's oldest and most esteemed theatres, holds more than just a rich history of performances. It harbors tales of ghostly apparitions that send shivers down the spines of actors and audience members alike. The most chilling of these tales is the haunting presence of Joseph Grimaldi, the legendary father of modern clowning. His spectral face, painted in the classic white clown makeup, is said to float through the theater, watching over performances with an eerie, unsettling gaze. Emily, a young, enthusiastic actress new to the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. Mr. Thompson, the experienced and somewhat cynical stage manager. Joseph Grimaldi's ghost, the spectral figure of the famous clown. Emily nervously pacing the empty stage, lit only by the dim glow of the ghost light. Mr. Thompson enters, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Emily, nervously. Mr. Thompson, have you ever seen any of the ghosts people talk about? Mr. Thompson scoffs. Seen 'em? I've been working here for 30 years, Emily. Ghosts are just stories to scare the new blood. Emily whispers. But what about Joseph Grimaldi? They say his face floats above the audience. Mr. Thompson, gruffly. Joseph Grimaldi was a great man, but he's been dead for over a century. Pauses, then softens. But if you're that curious, stay late after rehearsal. Maybe he'll come to say hello. A cold breeze sweeps through the theater, making the hairs on the back of Emily's neck stand up. The ghost light flickers. Emily, shivering. Did you feel that? Mr. Thompson looks around uneasily. Just a draft. This old place is full of 'em. As they talk, a faint, ethereal laughter echoes from the darkened corners of the theater. Emily gasps and grabs Mr. Thompson's arm. Emily, did you hear that? Mr. Thompson, tense. Probably just the wind. Let's call it a night. Suddenly, the ghostly figure of Joseph Grimaldi appears, his face painted white, floating above one of the boxes. His eyes seem to follow them, filled with both sorrow and mischief. Emily, whispering in awe, it's him. It's really him. Joseph Grimaldi's ghost, softly, with a ghostly smile. Welcome to my theater. Remember, the show must always go on. Emily stares in amazement as Grimaldi's ghost slowly fades away, leaving behind a lingering sense of wonder and fear. Mr. Thompson, voice shaking. All right, Emily, let's go. We've seen enough for one night. Joseph Grimaldi was a pioneer in the world of entertainment, often referred to as the father of modern clowning. His innovations and performances not only shaped the role of clowns in the theater but also left an indelible mark on the culture of the Regency era. Young Joseph Grimaldi. Mr. Collins, Grimaldi's mentor. Grimaldi's ghost. Joseph Grimaldi, born in 1778, revolutionized the art of clowning. His character Joey became a beloved figure, bringing laughter and joy to audiences across England. A young Joseph Grimaldi stands nervously on a stage, his face painted with the classic white makeup as his mentor, Mr. Collins, watches from the wings. Mr. Collins, encouragingly. Remember, Joseph, it's not just about the tricks. It's about the heart you put into each performance. Young Joseph Grimaldi, determined. Yes, Mr. Collins. I want them to laugh and feel something they've never felt before. The curtain rises and young Joseph launches into his act, combining acrobatics, mime, and slapstick comedy in a way that captivates the audience. Grimaldi's contributions to modern clowning were groundbreaking. He introduced a depth of emotion and storytelling that transformed the clown from a mere jester into a complex character capable of both comedy and pathos. Years later, Grimaldi is now a celebrated performer. He stands in front of a cheering crowd, taking his final bow for the night. Backstage, he is greeted by adoring fans and fellow performers. Fan, excitedly. Mr. Grimaldi, your performance was extraordinary. How do you do it? Joseph Grimaldi, smiling. It's all for the love of the art and the joy of making others happy. During the Regency era, Grimaldi's influence was unmatched. His popularity was so immense that even Charles Dickens would later write a biography about him. An older Grimaldi, now frail, sits in his study, writing his last will and testament. His lawyer, Mr. Collins, sits across from him, looking puzzled. Mr. Collins, confused. Joseph, are you certain about this request? It's unusual, to say the least. Joseph Grimaldi, firmly. Yes, Mr. Collins. I want my head to be severed from my body before burial. It's a final act, one last performance for the world. Mr. Collins, hesitant. Very well, if that is your wish. Grimaldi's request to have his head severed before burial was carried out, adding a macabre twist to his legacy. Years after his death, the ghostly figure of Joseph Grimaldi appears in the theater, his disembodied head floating eerily above the stage. Actors and audience members look on in a mixture of fear and awe. Grimaldi's ghost, whispering. The show must always go on, my friends. I am forever part of this place. To this day, the ghost of Joseph Grimaldi continues to haunt the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, a spectral reminder of the man who forever changed the face of clowning. The Theatre Royal Drury Lane, one of the oldest and most storied theatres in London, is not just famous for its performances. It is also renowned for its ghostly inhabitants, the most infamous being the spectral presence of Joseph Grimaldi. The ghost of Grimaldi, known for his pioneering work in modern clowning, is a source of both fascination and fear for those who encounter it. Sophie, a curious young theater-goer. James, a veteran usher with a wealth of ghost stories. Grimaldi's ghost, the spectral figure of Joseph Grimaldi. The ghost of Joseph Grimaldi, the father of modern clowning, is a chilling presence at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. Known for his white clown makeup, Grimaldi's disembodied face is said to float through the theater, leaving a trail of awe and terror. Sophie, wide-eyed and nervous, stands in the dimly lit theater lobby. She approaches James, who is leaning against the wall with an air of casual nonchalance. Sophie, hesitant. Excuse me, sir. Is it true what they say about this place being haunted? James chuckles. Oh, it's true, all right. You're talking about Grimaldi, aren't you? Sophie nods. Yes. They say his face floats around the theater. Is that really true? James leans in, whispering. Many have seen it. His face, painted in that eerie white makeup, appears out of nowhere. Over there, in the boxes, points to the darkened theater boxes, and sometimes right behind unsuspecting audience members. A sudden cold breeze sweeps through the theater, causing Sophie to shiver. The faint sound of ghostly laughter echoes through the air. Sophie, shivering. Did you hear that? James, nodding. That's him. Grimaldi likes to make his presence known. Some say he's watching the shows, making sure we're all keeping up the standard. As they speak, a ghostly figure appears in one of the boxes. It's the disembodied face of Joseph Grimaldi, floating above the seats, eyes glinting with a mixture of mischief and sadness. Grimaldi's ghost, softly, almost whispering. The show must go on always. Sophie, whispering in awe. It's him. It's really him. James, whispering back. You're lucky. Not everyone gets to see him. He's a part of this theater as much as the walls and the stage. The theater, showing glimpses of Grimaldi's ghostly face appearing in various locations. Grimaldi's ghost is most commonly seen in the theater boxes, watching over performances. Sometimes he appears over the shoulders of audience members, his face eerily close, as if he's whispering a final piece of advice or a haunting joke. Other ghosts at Theatre Royal Drury Lane. The Theatre Royal Drury Lane is not only famous for its performances but also for its spectral inhabitants. Among the most notable ghosts are the Man in Grey and Charles Macklin, whose eerie presences contribute to the theater's reputation as one of the most haunted locations in London. Mr. Thompson, the experienced stage manager. Alice, a curious theater-goer with a fascination for ghost stories. Charles Macklin's ghost. The Man in Grey. Alice, an enthusiastic theater-goer, joins Mr. Thompson for a backstage tour. The atmosphere is thick with history and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Alice, excitedly. Mr. Thompson, I've heard so many stories about the ghosts here. Can you tell me more about them? Mr. Thompson, nodding. Of course, Alice. This theater has seen its fair share of tragedy and mystery. Let me tell you about some of our most famous spirits. They walk towards the upper circle, where a cold draft sends a shiver down Alice's spine. The figure of the Man in Grey appears, dressed in 18th century attire with a tricorn hat and cloak, his form translucent and ghostly. Mr. Thompson, pointing. There he is, the Man in Grey. He's often seen here in the fourth row of the upper circle. Legend has it that he was stabbed and his body hidden behind the wall during renovations in the 1840s. Alice, whispering, "Why does he appear?" Mr. Thompson, softly, "They say his presence is a good omen. Every show he attends tends to be successful." He walks through the rows and disappears into the wall where his remains were found. They move to the backstage area, where the ghost of Charles Macklin is said to linger. Suddenly, a shadowy figure with a piercing gaze appears, his eyes filled with remorse. Alice, pointing, "Who's that?" Mr. Thompson, grimly, "That's Charles Macklin. In 1735, he killed a fellow actor, Thomas Hallam, over a wig dispute by driving a cane through his eye. Macklin's ghost haunts this corridor, perhaps seeking forgiveness for his crime." Charles Macklin's ghost, whispering with a hint of sorrow, "The stage is my prison, the scene of my sin." Alice, shivering, "That's chilling. Do the actors ever see him?" Mr. Thompson, nodding, "Oh yes, especially on quiet nights. Some say he still practices his lines, forever trapped in his final act." They return to the stage, the heart of the theater's ghostly activity. The atmosphere is heavy, as if the past performances and tragedies still linger. Mr. Thompson, seriously, the Theatre Royal Drury Lane has a reputation for being one of the most haunted places in London. From the helpful ghost of Joseph Grimaldi to the tragic figures of the Man in Grey and Charles Macklin, this place is a sanctuary for restless spirits. Alice, awed, "It's incredible how much history and mystery are intertwined here." Mr. Thompson, smiling, "Indeed. For us, the ghosts are part of the theater's charm. They remind us of the countless stories that have unfolded on this stage, both in life and beyond." The ghost of Joseph Grimaldi is more than just a spooky story at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. It's an integral part of the theater's rich cultural tapestry. The sightings of his floating, disembodied face have become legendary, adding to the mystique and folklore of this historic venue. These tales are passed down through generations, contributing to the theater's aura and making it a focal point for both ghost enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Mr. Thompson, the experienced stage manager. Emily, a young actress, audience member, an excited theater-goer. The theater is bustling with activity as the audience settles in for a performance. Backstage, Mr. Thompson is briefing Emily, who is nervously adjusting her costume. Emily, anxiously, "Mr. Thompson, do you really think we'll see Grimaldi's ghost tonight?" Mr. Thompson, smiling, "You never know, Emily. Grimaldi likes to show up when you least expect it. His ghost has been part of this theater's lore for centuries. People come here not just for the performances, but for the chance to glimpse his spectral face." Emily, wide-eyed, "What do you think it adds to the theater?" Mr. Thompson, thoughtfully, "It adds a layer of mystique. Every performance feels like it's being watched by history itself. The stories of Grimaldi and other ghosts create a unique atmosphere that you won't find anywhere else." The lobby, where an excited audience member is talking to another patron about the ghostly legends. Audience member, excitedly, "Did you hear about Grimaldi's ghost? They say you can see his face floating above the audience. I've heard he's even helped some of the actors by giving them a reassuring nudge or a mischievous kick." Patron, laughing, "Really? That's amazing. It must be something to experience. Adds a whole new level to watching a play here." Audience member, nodding, "Definitely. My friend told me she felt a cold hand on her shoulder last time she was here. When she turned around, no one was there. She swears it was Grimaldi." Backstage, Mr. Thompson and Emily are having a quiet moment before the show. The atmosphere is tense but filled with a sense of wonder. Emily, softly, "Do you think these ghost stories help the theater?" Mr. Thompson, nodding, "Absolutely. They create a connection between the past and present. For many, it's a thrilling part of the theater experience. Grimaldi's ghost isn't just a haunting. He's a symbol of the theater's enduring spirit." Emily, smiling, "I guess it's like having an extra performer who never leaves the stage." Mr. Thompson, grinning, "Exactly. Grimaldi's ghost, along with the other spirits, keeps the magic alive. It's a reminder that every performance is part of a long, storied history." The legacy of Joseph Grimaldi is one that transcends the boundaries of life and death, blending history, legend, and the paranormal in a tapestry that continues to captivate and haunt. His contributions to the art of clowning have left an indelible mark on theater, but it is his ghostly presence at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane that ensures he is remembered not just as a pioneer of comedy, but as a spectral guardian of the stage. Mr. Thompson, the experienced stage manager. Emily, a young actress. The theater is empty now, the performance having ended. The dim glow of the ghost light casts long shadows across the stage. Mr. Thompson and Emily stand at center stage, reflecting on the night's events. Emily, thoughtfully, it's amazing to think about how many lives Joseph Grimaldi has touched, even after his death. Mr. Thompson, nodding. His legacy is a powerful one. He revolutionized clowning, turning it into an art form that combines humor with deep emotion. But it's his ghost that keeps his story alive in a way few others can claim. Emily, shivering. There's something magical and terrifying about it, knowing he's watching over us, guiding us. Mr. Thompson, smiling. That's the beauty of it. The combination of history, legend, and these paranormal tales creates an atmosphere that's unique to this place. Every performance here is a tribute to the past, a dialogue with those who once graced this stage. A faint, ghostly laugh echoes through the theater, and a cold breeze ruffles their costumes. Emily looks around, wide-eyed, while Mr. Thompson chuckles softly. Emily, whispering, "Do you think he's here now?" Mr. Thompson, softly, "Always." Grimaldi's presence is part of the fabric of this theater. His spirit, along with the other ghosts, reminds us of the rich history we're part of. Emily, smiling. It's comforting in a strange way, like we're never truly alone here. Mr. Thompson, nodding. Exactly. The ghosts, the legends, they all add to the mystique of Drury Lane. It's what makes this place more than just a theater. It's a living, breathing part of history. As they stand there, a ghostly face appears briefly in one of the boxes, watching them with a mischievous smile. It's Grimaldi, his presence both eerie and comforting. Grimaldi's ghost, whispering, "The show must go on." Joseph Grimaldi's legacy at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane is not just one of historical significance, but of continued influence through the spectral presence that haunts its halls. The combination of Grimaldi's contributions to clowning, the rich history of the theater, and the chilling paranormal tales create a unique and enduring mystique. The stories shared by theater-goers and staff weave a narrative that keeps the spirit of the theater alive, ensuring that every performance is imbued with the magic and mystery of its storied past. Through the laughter, the tears, and the ghostly whispers, Joseph Grimaldi remains an eternal part of the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, a testament to the enduring power of performance and the unbreakable bond between the living and the dead. Dimly lit, eerie theater background with flickering candles and shadowy figures in the distance. The ghostly face of Joseph Grimaldi briefly appears and fades away. Host, standing in the foreground with a flashlight illuminating their face. Host, in a haunting tone. Thanks for joining us on this spine-chilling journey through the haunted halls of the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. If you enjoyed uncovering the eerie tales of Joseph Grimaldi and the other restless spirits that roam these ancient corridors, make sure to hit that like button. Cut to a montage of creepy, dimly lit theater shots and ghostly apparitions. Host. Subscribe to Hidden Horrors for more ghost stories, haunted locations, and chilling legends. Don't forget to ring the bell icon so you never miss an episode of the macabre and the mysterious. Cut to Host, now in a shadowy theater lobby with faint ghostly sounds in the background. Host, have you ever encountered a ghostly presence or experienced something paranormal? Share your stories in the comments below. We love hearing from fellow seekers of the supernatural. Until next time, remember to keep your eyes open and your lights on. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.